What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video of Barbecue with Barry. And today we are doing baby back ribs 2 ways. Let's get started. So I just picked up a pack of baby back ribs. There are 2 racks in here from Sam's Club. Plan today is we're gonna do these, finish these 2 different ways. So one is gonna be finished with a sauce and the other one's gonna be finished just with kind of like a dry rub on there. We're probably gonna be running around 250 degrees on our pellet grill today. Probably cook time anywhere from 4 to 5 hours. Just depends on kind of when you get that probe tender and when they're right around 208. So let's go ahead, get these cut open and start seasoning them up. All right, now that we got these out of the package, let's go ahead, start patting them down with a paper towel and getting them dry. All right, now that we got these patted dry, let's go ahead. I'm gonna start trimming up some of this excess that's just kind of hanging off here. That stuff that's just going to burn up in the cook, so we'll go ahead, trim that off, and then we'll start removing the membrane on these. All right, now that we got these trimmed up, let's go ahead and start removing the membrane on here. Baby back ribs, the membrane is a lot easier to remove than on full spare ribs or St. Louis ribs. So let's go ahead, remove the membrane on these. Get yourself a butter knife, and you can see kind of between these 2 bones here. I just like to go in between the bones because it's usually easier to get kind of up under there. All right, now that we got the membrane removed on these, go ahead, we're gonna use some mustard as a binder today, and then we'll get them seasoned up. Go ahead and get these rubbed down with some mustard. Then for our seasoning, I'm gonna start with a little 16 mesh black pepper. Then we're gonna go on with the base layer, that Heath Rowell's garlic jalapeno. Then we'll finish it off with that Heath Rowell's Competition rub. Give that a good pat in, and we'll repeat it to the other side. All right, now that we got our 2 racks of baby back ribs all seasoned up, I'm gonna go ahead, throw these on a pan, put them in the fridge, let that seasoning adhere, and then we'll go ahead, get the pellet grill fired up to 250 degrees. All right, now that we got our seasoning adhered, let's go ahead, get these on the grill. All right, now that our grill's up to temp, we're running at 250 degrees. Let's go ahead and get these baby back ribs on. I like to bunch them up and kind of get my bones as straight as possible. That just makes for easier slicing when these are done. And I'm going to go ahead and throw a probe in these so we can monitor the temperature. I'm let these take a little smoke bath. All right, so our ribs have been on for right around an hour and a half. Reading an internal temperature of right around 133 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and give them a spritz. Go ahead and give them a spritz with some water and apple cider vinegar. All right, after about 2 hours, I just got the notification that we're probing right around 165 degrees, so I'm just gonna double check them with my thermopen. Still a little low, so we're gonna go ahead and let these go for probably another 30 minutes and then check them again. All right, we gave them another 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and give them another check. This smaller rack for sure is ready. This bigger one might be take a little more time, but I think we can pull both of these off now and get them wrapped up. Beautiful color on these. Got some of that fat rendering right there. Two and a half hours at 250 degrees. Bark's nice and set on these. Internal temperature reached right around 160 to 165 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and get these wrapped up. The one that I'm going to be doing a dry rub on, I'm going to be wrapping with butter, honey, and brown sugar. And then the other one that we're going to finish with a glaze at the end of barbecue sauce, I'm just going to wrap with barbecue sauce for the remainder of the cook. So let's go ahead, get some aluminum foil out and get these wrapped up. All right, so this first rack, we're going to go down first with our brown sugar. Then we'll go in with some honey. And finally, our parquet squeezed butter. Go ahead and lay these meat side down. Then we'll go ahead and add some more honey to the back of these. And a little more butter. Get these wrapped up. Make sure you get this wrap nice and tight, but you don't want to have the bones puncture the aluminum foil. Sometimes I will double wrap these just to be safe, but I think I'm just gonna single wrap these today. I guess I'm gonna double wrap them because they poke through right there. All right, so for our second wrap, I'm just gonna go down with some of this barbecue sauce that I made in another one of my videos. Go ahead, same thing, meat side down. And we'll go back, coat that back with the barbecue sauce. And get these wrapped up. And these didn't poke through anywhere. Not seeing anywhere where they poke through. So they would be okay to just go on just wrapped up once. But since I already got this piece of aluminum foil out, I'll go ahead and wrap them up one more time. All right, back on the smoker they will go until they reach an internal temperature right around 207, 208 degrees, or when they're probe tender. We don't want them to fall off the bone, but we want them to be as tender as possible. Let's go ahead and get these back on the grill, throw a probe in them, and we'll monitor them for probably the next hour to hour and a half. All right, our temp is still set at 250. Let's go ahead and get these guys back on. Now, this is the hotter side of my grill, so I am going to be going with the bigger rack or thicker rack over there, and then the slightly smaller rack on this side, and these are meat side down right now. So go ahead, get a probe in these, let these babies continue to cook. All right, so just got the notifications that our ribs had reached an internal temperature of 208 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull these off, and just check them with our thermopin. All right, so we just took our ribs off the grill. We have the rack that we wrapped with barbecue sauce right here, and the rack that we wrapped with the brown sugar, honey, and parquet butter right here. They've rested down a little bit. Let's go ahead, slice into these, and see how we did. Overall, really, really good. Went slightly over on the cook, just to be honest with you guys. Went a little bit over on the time, but they're more fall off the bone rather than sit on the bone and bite off, which is kind of what I prefer. But they're still really, really tasty. Clean bone. Total cook time was right around 4.5 hours, so not bad at all to get these ribs done. Let's try the sauce one. Personally, I think the sauce one's a little bit better. It's got that barbecue sauce we made in our spare ribs video. Really good flavor. A little more on the vinegar side for a sauce, but once in a while I really like a good vinegar sauce, and this sauce is one of my favorites that we've made. Clean bone. Overall, really can't beat that right there. I like doing them two different ways, so we have a little bit of a different flavor profile on each of these for when I'm serving them later today. So gives people something different to choose from and kind of see what they like, whether they like the sauce or the kind of more sweet and savory as far as the honey, brown sugar, and butter goes. Let's do a little recap of our cook here today. So we started off with 2 racks of baby back ribs, got those trimmed up, trimmed off anything that we saw sitting on the outside, little piece of fat, meat hanging off, that sort of thing. Trim that off, remove the membrane on the back of these, rubbed them down with some mustard as a binder, got them seasoned up with 16 mesh black pepper, and then we went on with Heath Ryle's garlic jalapeno, and then topped them with Heath Ryle's competition rub. Threw them in the fridge to let that seasoning adhere, got the pit fired up to 250 degrees. Once the seasoning was adhered, threw these on the grill. They cooked right around 3 hours, 3.5 hours before we wrapped them. Wrapped them up where they cooked for another hour, and took them off, let them rest, and this was the result. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.